All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Village Board meeting to order on Tuesday, September 8, 2020. We are meeting virtually again tonight because it's not practical or prudent to meet in person. And so I would like to begin the meeting by asking if you would please rise and join the Village Board in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
of
United
the
States
United States of America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic
for which
for which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty,
with liberty
and
and justice for all.
Have I got, thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
And no.
Okay. Again, we're meeting virtually because it's not practical or prudent to meet in person just yet. And so let's begin with the roll call. Would the clerk please call the roll? Is she there?
Trustee Baldino,
Here.
Trustee Canty,
Here.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Here.
Trustee LaBedz,
Here.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Here.
Trustee Padovani, Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Here.
President Hayes.
Here. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and the first set to approve is from the Village Board meeting of August 17, 2020. Are there any changes or passes?
Move approval.
Second.
Who made the motion?
Trustee Rosenberg.
Trustee Rosenberg made the motion, and the second was
Trustee LaBedz.
Trustee LaBedz. Roll call.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the accounts payable, and I call on Trustee Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd approve the warrant register with a check date of August 30th, 2020 in the amount of $3,748,133.90.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Rosenberg, second by Trustee Scaletta. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Well, next, under recognitions and presentations, we have a very, very special presentation to make tonight to a very special guest in person here in our Village Council chambers tonight. And we don't award many of these Good Samaritan awards, but this is an individual here with us tonight, Kyla M. Davis, who is so deserving of this Good Samaritan award. And I would like to call her up front in just a minute, but she is joined with us tonight by her parents, Cheryl and Tyrone Davis, and her boyfriend, Jareth Estrada. And so we thank all of them for joining us this evening to help recognize the heroic efforts of Kyla M. Davis. And Kyla, if you join me up front, if you would, at this time. And we've got Chief Pecora as well to present the actual award. So Chief, if you'd come up to the front as well. Carla, I'm going to have you come over here if you would. And we're trying our best to socially distance and be COVID-19 compliant, but we do have to make an exception for this very special evening. And so let me just read the award citation. All right, let me just read the award citation in recognition of the description of the events that led to Kyla's recognition here this evening. Just after 8 o'clock a.m. on Thursday, August 27, 2020. An intense confrontation began to unfold. A 41-year-old man determined where his former girlfriend was living. She left their relationship approximately 6 months ago due to multiple incidents of domestic violence. The victim was unknowingly stalked in her apartment complex parking lot located near the intersection of Gobert and Algonquin Roads. As the victim entered her car, the offender approached while brandishing a knife. The offender was yelling. The disturbance was heard by witness and 911 caller Ms. Kyla Davis, who was driving through the parking lot. Kyla observed the offender hold a knife to the victim's neck and forcefully push her into his SUV. Kyla called 911 to report a violent crime in progress. The victim escaped from the offender's SUV and began to run towards Kyla's car, with the offender giving chase. Kyla let the victim into her car and locked the door. The offender then reached Kyla's car and tried to open the door. Kyla drove away to establish distance and provide safety for the victim. Kyla then continued to talk with the 911 operator while driving west on Algonquin Road. She noticed the offender was following from a distance. Kyla then navigated the intersection of Algonquin and Arlington Heights roads. She was following the dispatcher's instructions to drive towards the Arlington Heights police station with her hazard lights activated. The offender then struck 2 vehicles while chasing Kyla and the victim and discontinued his pursuit. Kyla continued north on Arlington Heights Road until she was intercepted by a responding police officer. The victim told officers she was in fear for her life. The offender told her he was going to kill her and then himself. Unfortunately, the offender followed through with his statement of self-demise shortly after causing 2 hit-and-run collisions. An Arlington Heights police investigation reasonably concluded the offender's demonstrated criminal intent was supported by Kyla's observations and the victim's description of the incident. Most likely, the victim would not have survived the encounter that morning if it was not for the swift and decisive actions of Miss Kyla Davis. Kyla's willingness to get involved by becoming to the immediate aid of a fellow citizen in crisis exemplifies the definition of a good Samaritan and is truly worthy of recognition here this evening. So congratulations, Kyla. We can't thank you enough on behalf of all of the citizens of Arlington Heights, and not just the residents of Arlington Heights, but all communities. This is a great story, not just a good story, but a great story. And who knows what any of us would have done in your situation, but you acted and you saved somebody's life. And we can't thank you enough for your heroic efforts on that day. And so in recognition of that, I would like to introduce Chief Nick Pecora to present you with his Good Samaritan Award. Chief.
Kyla, as the mayor concluded, this is certainly worthy of recognition. I'd like to present to you the Arlington Heights Police Department Chief's Meritorious Service Award. I'd like to read the text. This certificate is hereby awarded to Ms. Kyla M. Davis. In recognition of your courageous and selfless actions, you did not hesitate to render aid to a victim of a violent crime in progress by affording safety and a means to flee an aggressive attacker. On August 27, 2020, your intervention saved a fellow citizen from imminent grave danger. This noble act of bravery reflects greatly on your character and serves as an example for others to follow. Thank you very much for your action.
One other award that I would like to give you is an Arlington Heights coin. This is actually the first coin that I am awarding. And so we give these to very special people in Arlington Heights, and you are certainly one very special person. And so please accept this Arlington Heights coin on behalf of the Village Board of Arlington Heights and all the residents that we represent. So I would like to give you now an opportunity just to say a few words if you're comfortable.
Is this mic working? I don't know.
Hopefully.
Okay. I just want to say thank you for the 911 operator that responded to my call, and for the police officers that responded swiftly to help with the situation. It was a very unfortunate incident that occurred, and I'm just happy I was there to help. Everything I did was just first instinct, and I'm just thankful to God that it played out the way it did as far as her safety. There's nothing I would change from what I did that day. But yeah, thank you guys for showing me. Just thank you. I don't know. It's still thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Kyla. And again, it's our honor to have you here today. And again, you are reflective of so many good citizens that do good things for others. But you went above and beyond the call of duty that day. And so we can't thank you enough for all the good work that you did that day. But I know the kind of person you must be. And I'm just meeting you tonight, but I can tell that you're going to do great things.
Thank you.
And so we wish you the best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for your family and your boyfriend for being here this evening and joining us tonight on this very special
Yes,
occasion.
thank you guys. I really do appreciate it.
All right. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
I apologize for the technical difficulties. The only regret for recognizing Kyla tonight is that we could not do it with a very large crowd that she really deserved. And so hopefully we do have a number of people in the audience, and it will be very well reported in the media for the great heroic effort that she demonstrated. So thank you again. We will move on and the agenda then to citizens to be heard. And we do have two comments that were submitted in advance of the meeting, and I would ask the clerk to read those into the record at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. The first comment is from Joan Dubnica. My family and I have been residents on Dryden Avenue, 1147 North Dryden, for over 18 years. We have lived several places and have found Arlington Heights to be the most community-oriented place we have lived. This section of Dryden embodies what I love about Arlington Heights. It is very walkable and neighborly, with a great deal of people outside enjoying our area. This includes families, children, the cross-country teams from the local schools out running, pet owners walking their dogs, and people of all ages. People walk, run, ride bikes, rollerblade, ride scooters, stop and chat with neighbors, and play in their front yards. The speed limit on our residential street is 25 miles per hour, which is very appropriate. Unfortunately, many drivers do not abide by this limit. I appreciate the village's efforts to enforce this law, including the flashing sign indicating cars' actual speed and the patrol officers policing and ticketing, and hope these efforts continue. However, they are not adequate. Cars continue to speed down our street. It is not uncommon for me to hear a car accelerate quickly, gunning it, quote unquote, as it leaves the stop sign at Dryden and Olive and heads south. From time to time, I am appalled to see cars pass slower cars right in front of my house. These cases are always southbound cars. And while I appreciate the extra police effort to try and catch these offenders, the time they can spend on the street is limited, and I am sure this is an expensive solution. I suggest we pursue more permanent and less expensive solutions. I am requesting the board and the relevant village staff research the installation of speed reminder signs that are placed in the middle of the road. Not only will this be a greater reminder of the speed limit, but it will in effect narrow the road, which naturally causes drivers to slow down. Or another related option would be to place rubber dividers down the center line like those used for construction, to create an artificial narrowing of the street and create a natural cause for drivers to slow down. These options will be relatively inexpensive and permanent. It is worth trying to see if this reduces the speeding on this residential street. I appreciate your consideration and effort to try and make the street safe and another example of the walkability and neighborhood focus of Arlington Heights. Thank you. Would you like me to read the other letters, Mayor, or would you like to respond?
Do you have just one more, Becky?
I do. I have one more.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and read that one as well?
Okay. This item comes from Melissa Kerr, and she asks 2 questions. The first was, why did you forego 23 years worth of property tax revenue from the TIF district around Arlington Heights Road and Algonquin Road? And her second question is, how can you vote to have all the other taxing bodies forego 23 years worth of property tax revenue? And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Let me just address the second one first, and I'll have the village manager address the first question or comment regarding TIF districts. Just to make sure everyone understands, the TIF district creation means that the property tax levels are frozen. It doesn't mean that the taxing bodies within that district don't get any tax revenue. They get the amount that the level was frozen at. And then the incremental revenue goes into spurring development in that designated tax increment financing district. So the taxing bodies are still getting their fair share of tax revenue during the life of the TIF. And as we've seen in our TIF districts throughout the village, they then receive the benefit of that development once the TIF ends. And so hopefully and I think our TIF districts have demonstrated that the tax rate is much greater after the development has occurred and the TIF has ended. So I think all of our districts have done very well over the course of their lifetimes. And we're still working on the one at Arlington Heights Road and Algonquin Road. So Randy, do you want to address the other one?
Sure, Mayor, happy to. Dryden, in that vicinity where the writer lives, is one of the areas where the police department does conduct selective enforcement. And they have been the traffic unit has been spending a fair amount of time in this vicinity, writing tickets when appropriate and deterring traffic just with their presence. I'm happy to say that since 2014, we have seen a significant drop in accidents at that location. Discounting, even when you discount 2020, all areas have seen a drop in accidents this year because there's just less traffic. But in 2014, we had 27 accidents between Kensington and Thomas. And in 2019, we had 18. And it's been dropping pretty much every year along that stretch. And so we're happy to see that. But we know when you live in an area, you always want to get it as safe as you possibly can. And we're trying to do what we can. In terms of the specific suggestion for an in-street placard sign, we have experimented with those types of signs in the past. Most notably at Vale and Wing and Kensington and Windsor. We have not had a lot of success with that particular type of signage or with the rubber dividers. What we find is that they get hit by traffic quite a bit and get damaged, have to be replaced, and they don't have a noticeable impact on traffic, at least we haven't seen them. The other issue is they generally have to be removed during the winter months because of snowfall operations anyways. And so we're happy to look at all the different options that we can to help reduce traffic and continue our enforcement efforts. And we have seen an improvement in that area, but staff would not recommend those particular placard signs at this time based on our experience.
All right, thanks, Randy. I do have 3 hands that are raised under citizens to be heard, now 4, 5, and so, and 6. And so we will call now on members of the audience who wish to address the board on an item not on the agenda. And again, if you are interested in speaking on the diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda item, which is at the end of our agenda, where we will be discussing a contract with a consulting firm to address the board and those associated issues. Please wait until that agenda item. Otherwise, we would entertain questions or comments from members of the audience at this time under citizens to be heard. You are reminded of a 3-minute time limit, just so we can move expeditiously throughout our agenda this evening. And so I would first call on Thomas Galla.
Hello?
Okay, Mr. Galla, we've got you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my name is Tom Galla, and I'm also here to raise my concerns and ask for some help regarding the traffic conditions on Dryden. Before I go any further, I want to thank you, the mayor, and the trustees for taking time to hear me out. I also want to thank the police force for being professional in dealing with me. I contact them a lot, and I'm impressed with them taking me seriously because I know I'm annoying. And I'm also very pleased to be here today to see the award given to Kyla. I'm really impressed with this person, and I'm glad they're a part of our community. I sent an email yesterday, and perhaps you have not seen it, but I wanted to follow up verbally here today about the traffic situation. I felt I could probably express myself a little better in this form than an email. But I really just want to give you guys a view on what it's like living on Dryden. There's several things I've come to count on when I live where I live. And that's when I'm driving on my way home from work, I can almost essentially count on an angry driver being an inch on my tail, road raging because I'm not driving fast enough. And usually what happens is once traffic cleared on oncoming traffic, they pass me. And what's super concerning is Dryden is a key biking route. And I've seen it happen a lot. There's been a lot of close calls with people almost getting hit. And I feel like we're playing Russian roulette with this scenario. I can also count on, as I walk through the town, having to yield to motorists as they continually blow stop signs at Oakton and Dryden. It wasn't so long ago that I was almost run over with my dog at that intersection. What else I can count on living where I live, and I'm sorry I only have a couple more points in this regard, is I can count on being woken up at 1 or 2 a.m. by somebody doing a wide open throttle run down the street. And please, you could talk to anybody on the street. This is a normal thing. And I'm really upset that I have to keep on dealing with it. And lastly, what I can count to accept is increasing level of accidents on the street. Just in the last month alone, there were 2 very serious accidents. Within the last week and a half, there was one situation where 2 cars hopped the curb, crossed the sidewalk, and almost hit a house. If there was a mother walking a child, an elderly person, somebody walking their dog, it would be game over for them. And we're trying to avoid these things. So I know these aren't things that you want your constituents to go through, but I think at this moment, you might not have even known that it was a problem. But I can tell you, there's more than 30 people on the street who feel this is a top priority. Among all the other things that are going on, this is number 1. And I need the village to stand with the residents and not to pass through traffic looking for the quickest way to get to Prospect Heights from Mount Prospect. That said, my main point in being here is really to directly ask the board to address this problem. I'm not going to prescribe a solution. I'm asking for you to deploy your experts to figure out a solution. I'm asking very explicitly, what do we need to do to get this done? If it needs to start with something on our end or on my end, please let me know. If it's a petition, if it's time spent, whatever it is, please let me know. We need to get this solved. We need to give a reprieve to the people of Dryden. That said, I do appreciate your time. I do approve of your time that you do in service to the community. I apologize if I come off as harsh, but this is a critical situation right now. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Galla. And obviously the first step in solving a problem is identifying the problem. And so we thank you for your and your neighbors letting us know about the situation. Unfortunately, this is a situation that we see all too often on many of the streets in the village. And so our police department is actively working in a number of different neighborhoods to solve this very same problem. And so I know we will do all we can to, with your help, address this issue on Dryden as well. Next is Randy Reese and then Catherine Boudart.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we got you, Randy.
Okay, thank you so much for the time. I am also here as a resident of Dryden Avenue. I won't belabor the points that Tom hit on or that were in the letter that was written. And as Mayor Hayes mentioned, I know this is not an uncommon issue or a unique issue to Dryden Avenue. I believe residents of Cleveland Avenue were on the January 21st board meeting of this year with a similar issue, and I'm sure you hear it a lot from different residents. But what I will say is, since COVID has hit, obviously there's a lot more children at home playing outside. There's been a lot more people just in general up and down the street throughout the day, every day. And the traffic volume on the street throughout the day has definitely increased in the last 6 months. I don't know, obviously, all of the reasons why, but there's a lot more people that aren't commuting to a job somewhere right now. And so I'm sure that factors into things. What I would, like Tom said, I'm not here to prescribe a solution, but just want to voice my concern. And I'd like to respectfully request that the village conduct a traffic study on the street. And, you know, we appreciate the police support, but I'm not sure that that's not going to be an ongoing permanent solution. And it's probably not the best use of their resources just to monitor traffic. So if there's a more permanent, effective solution that can be deployed following a traffic study, that would be much appreciated. So I'll stop there and just want to thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reese. Next is Catherine Boudart and then George Mato.
Hi, it's Catherine. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you for your time. You know, I kind of would like to add kind of a personal point to what Tom and Randy have said in regards to, I'm a mother. I have 4 children. I moved here. I've been here for almost 10 years on Dryden Avenue. I almost did not purchase this house because of the street. While I was viewing the home with the realtor, I said, my biggest concern is the street. Since then, since my children have grown from small toddlers to, elementary students and high school student, I've had to teach my children how to stay away from the busy street and how to avoid even going up and down Dryden because of the recklessness that we've seen. And when they were very young, I even had some vulgarity from a driver who I said, please slow down, yell at me and flip me off. So my comments are more personal. I worry about my children getting hit as they're older now and they're riding and walking to school. They have to cross the 4-way at Oakton and Dryden. They're around the neighborhood with all the other children, and we are still seeing a consistent problem. Like I said, 10 years seeing it, and I appreciate the police. They're out there often trying to help the situation. But what about speed bumps? What can we do really, truly to slow these people down? And it's not just teenagers. It's, I've seen older people in their convertibles flying down our street. So I hope that we can really take it seriously, because that last accident with the 2 cars up on somebody's lawn and hit the pole, and that's frightening. And I can't tell you how many times I've called 911 when I've seen someone blow the stop sign and fly down our street at, I'm not kidding, 70 miles per hour. So again, I apologize. I'm a more maybe an emotional aspect to the whole cause, but I want to see our children of Arlington Heights stay safe and get people to realize that this is a community where we should all be driving slower and follow the speed limit.
Thank you, Catherine. We share the same concern. Next is
Thank you.
Eugene Bolt.
Hi, my name is Gene Bolt. I live in the 900 block of North Dryden Avenue, so I'm directly across from St. Viator. And I don't want to belabor the points that have already been made. I think you all get it, that we do see it as an issue here. Watching a video this afternoon of a lot of cars rolling through the intersection at Dryden and Oakton was a little bit disturbing. I would just bring up a few more points that I would actually like the village specifically to request the village board to specifically request the engineering department to investigate what they might be able to do. And so on my end, it's really between Euclid and Oakton, but this may apply elsewhere in the village as well. That's about a quarter-mile stretch of street that has no crosswalks, zero. And that's across the street from a public park and a high school that connects to a residential neighborhood. So you're talking about from Euclid up to Hawthorne, and then from Hawthorne along the sports fields up to Frederick. And then on up to Oakton, there are no crosswalks. And the speed limit ranges from, during school days, 20 up to 25. And it's rare that people really drive 20. I mean, I myself find it difficult to drive 20 in that stretch because the street is so wide. But I would like the board to request the engineering department to investigate possibilities for things that might slow traffic down. I feel that crosswalks are reasonable. It might be a bit of an expensive solution, but I think it's reasonable to investigate because there are, pedestrians just cross the street wherever they want to along that stretch. And it seems fair that that's something we should investigate. The other thing too is possibly larger lighted stop signs, and consider adding fine signage. Like if we know what the fine is for blowing a stop sign, putting a sign up there saying that it's monitored and there is a step fine, that might help as well. So I just like to consider, to have you consider those points. And if there's anything that we can do further to help in that regard, I'd be happy to hear it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bolt. And the last hand I see is Thomas Galla again. Mr. Galla, if I could just give you another 30 seconds, if you would.
Okay, hi. Hello?
We got you.
All right. Sorry for the additional hand raised. I just, I asked an explicit question. I'm curious if you're actually going to address it. I would like to hear if you're going to make an action on this or not. Because to be honest, and most respectfully, it sounds like you're evading the question.
Well, that's not my intention whatsoever, Mr. Galla. I think I'm expressing concern on behalf of the village board for your situation, as we have in other situations. And so Mr. Recklaus explained in response to the written comment they received some of the actions that the village will be taking. Mr. Recklaus, do you want to just reinforce those again?
Sure. I'm happy to speak to the engineering department and police department about doing a speed study and taking a look at it. I did get some statistics from the police department today because they, as you know, they have been spending time there. We had 27 accidents in 2014. This is between Kensington and Thomas. 24 in 2015, it went up to 33 in 2016, back down to 24 in 17, 19 in 2018, and 18 in 2019. And this year we had a significant drop off in accidents. It's gone down to 7. But again, throughout the whole system, we've seen a big drop off in traffic. When we've done kind of causation studies on our accidents over the past 10 years or so, 42% were intersection related accidents, 35% were failure to reduce speed, which are usually the rear end crashes. The next highest factor was disregard for a traffic control device. We've issued about 392 citations since 2012 along this stretch. About 70% of those were for speeding. And so we're, on the one hand, we're very happy to see the reduction crashes. That's what we want to see. That's a trend line that we're, glad to see. The village is spending a lot of time on trying to reduce accidents, both in terms of enforcement and in terms of our looking at the physical environment over the last few years. And we've seen a significant drop in crashes village-wide in the last 10 years or so. But that being said, we're happy to study it a bit further in terms of what the traffic patterns are in that area, seeing if there are different things that may help. We're happy to investigate it further. I don't have any further answers or suggestions at this point other than the data that we had, and we're listening.
Can we get a general firm timeline on this?
I wish I could. A lot of that's going to depend on the availability of staff. Right now, we're running tight staffing wise. We've left some positions unfilled because of the financial crisis that we're going through, and so it does limit our ability to respond to these types of things. But we will try to do it as quickly as we possibly can. For those individuals, anyone who's interested in who's listening that would like to get more information on this, I would encourage you. You can email me directly with your information, and you'll get a response. And if you want to take a pen and paper, my email address is rrecklaus. That's RRECKLAUS @vah.com. And I'll include you in any response that I receive from the engineering department and police department. And we'll take a look at the area. I mean, the one thing I'll point out is Dryden is a collector street. It is designed to, and it does carry more traffic than some of the surrounding streets, and it's supposed to because it's a through street, and it just conveys a bit more traffic, and that's just a fact of the matter. Anything we would do, is not going to take away from that fact, and we don't want to create a situation where we create bottlenecks or things that, because we've found at times that can create more accidents and create more issues, and so we have to look at this at a kind of not just what's going on in Dryden, but what's going on in the adjacent blocks. But we're happy to communicate a bit further for sure.
Thank you.
All right. We have one other hand under citizens to be heard. That's Carolyn Salke. Carolyn?
Hello?
We can hear you, Carolyn.
Okay, great. My husband and I have been residents on Dryden. We're in the 728 is our house, but we've been here for 30 plus years. Our kids went to school with Robin's kids. But anyway, so we just wanted to also lend our support to making Dryden a safer street for the bicyclists, the people walking, and just, I know a lot of folks are just driving faster than they were 30 years ago. But so we were here when they put the stoplight in, and it used to be a Brown's Chicken instead of a Walgreens. So that increased traffic a lot way back in the day. But anyway, long beyond that time. But I would just like to echo with my other neighbors and thank you for your support and helping us.
Okay, Carolyn, you had some difficulties with your audio there, but I think you're done with your comments, so thank you.
Yep.
We have no other hands, and so I would then close out the citizens to be heard portion of the agenda and move on in the agenda to old business. And we do have 2 items to report out from our committee, the whole meeting from earlier this evening, and I'd first call on Trustee Canty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move now, as I did then, that the board concur in the mayor's appointment of Lucy Nisi to the Environmental Commission with a term ending April 30th, 2021.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Canty, seconded by Trustee Baldino. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Well, Lucy, I see you're on, and if you could just make sure you're unmuted so we can hear your oath as you repeat after me. So if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your full name,
I, Lucy Nisi,
having been appointed to the Environmental Commission
having been appointed to the Environmental Commission
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the office according to the best of my ability.
Well, congratulations, Lucy. We know you will. Thank you so much. At the appropriate time, we will have you sign your oath of office in person, and I will present you with a village logo pin that all of our elected and appointed board and commission members wear as a representative of this great community. So again, thank you for your willingness to serve, and we look forward to many years of contributions from you on the Environmental Commission. So again, thank
so
you.
much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we do have one other motion to report out, and that's by Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. I move now, as I did earlier, to concur in the mayor's appointment of Karen DeZellart to the Special Events Commission with a term ending April 30th, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Trustee LaBedz, seconded by Trustee Schwingbeck. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. So Karen, if you would raise your right hand as well and repeat after me. I, and state your full name. Karen, if you'd take yourself off mute. I don't think we got you yet.
I think you're still muted, Karen.
Okay.
There we got
There you
you.
go.
Okay.
You got me now? Okay.
All right, let's start over. I, and state your full name.
I, Karen DeZeller,
Having been appointed to the Special Events Commission
having been appointed to the Special Events Commission
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the office according to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Karen. We know you will. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And again, you will need to sign your oath at the appropriate time, and we will present you with the village logo pin as well. So again, congratulations. And I know you're going to have a lot of fun on the Special Events Commission. So good luck to you.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. All right, that is all of our old business. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any members of the board who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Any members of the audience who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we do have Melissa Kayer. Melissa, do you wish to remove an item? Melissa, if you'd take yourself off mute, if you would.
Yes, the bond waiver items,
All three?
yes.
Okay, those shall be removed. Consent, petitions, and communications A, B, and C. So are there any other members of the audience who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, are there any members of the board who wish to vote no or pass on any remaining items on the consent agenda?
I would move approval of the remaining items.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scaletta, second by trustee LaBedz to approve the remaining items on the consent agenda. Any discussion by the board or the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
trustee Baldino,
Yes.
trustee Canty,
Yes.
trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Well, let's go ahead and take up those petitions and communications if we could at this time. So, Mr. Reckles, you want to give us just a brief summary of those bond waivers?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. I think trustee Scaletta was raising his hand.
I just wanted a point of order. Do we need to make a motion, Mayor, to move those forward?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So, trustee Scaletta, is that a motion?
I would move that we take the items that were removed from the consent agenda and move them up to the current place in the agenda. Second.
Motion by trustee Scaletta, second by trustee Schwingbeck. Roll call.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
trustee Baldino,
Yes.
trustee Canty,
Yes.
trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Reckles?
Thank you, Mayor. The village code requires that if someone is going to hold a raffle, they have to provide a bond. And the idea behind that is if, we want to make sure that if there's an entity that's doing a raffle, that they're not going to take all the raffle ticket proceeds and skip town, without holding the raffle. The village has a long history and practice of waiving the bond requirement for well-known organizations, governmental entities, and so forth in town, because there's a fair amount of confidence that the Arlington Heights Park Foundation, Metropolis Performing Arts, and, for example, St. James Church, if they decided not to hold the raffle, we would know where to find them. And so this is consistent with our longstanding practice. And so staff recommends that the bonds be waived for those different entities.
All right. Ms. Kayer, did you have a specific question or comment on these?
Yes, so a bond is something that they would buy to ensure that there's enough money to pay back the people who bought a raffle ticket?
Yeah, they would have to put up money in the form of a bond. And in the event that they didn't go through with the raffle, then that bond could be cashed out. And so it's kind of a deterrent from people, doing something they shouldn't be doing in that regard.
How much do the bonds cost?
I'm not sure if Ms. Ward recalls off the top of her head what the bond requirements would be for a raffle. I do not have that information in front of me.
Yeah, I don't have the information in front of me either. I don't know, but it's the bond amount is based on the value of the raffle tickets sold. So it's not a particular set amount. It's based on the value of the raffle as a whole.
Mayor?
Trustee Scaletta?
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Let's say the bond amount was $200. In the event that the raffle went okay, everyone received their prizes, and the raffle is now over, do they receive their bond back?
Yes.
Yeah, the bond is something that you buy like builders buy bonds. It's that sort of thing. It's a protection where just if for some reason the people running the raffle run off, the people who bought raffle tickets can go collect from the bond. The bond.
I agree. I'm clarifying that this is not a fee we're waiving. It's a bond that we're waiving because they're well-known organizations in town that we know where to find them. They've been established here for many, many years, and that this is a bond and not a fee that we're waiving.
Correct. It's a requirement to obtain a bond. Correct.
Unless Ms. Kerr has any other questions, I'm ready to make a motion.
No.
All right, thanks,
Thank you, Ms. Kerr.
Thanks, Melissa.
I would move that we approve the remaining 3 items.
Second.
No, they need to be approved one at a time.
All right.
They're 3 separate items.
Trustee Scaletta, you want to take the first one?
Absolutely. I would move that the village board waive the bond for the Arlington Heights Park Foundation.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, second by Trustee Tinaglia. Any further questions or comments? Roll call?
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes. Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Who wants to make the next motion? Trustee
I'll do it.
Baldino?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that the village board waive the bond requirement as requested by the Metropolis Performing Arts Center.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Baldino, second by Trustee Canty. Any further questions or comments? Roll call?
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. And St. James Church? Trustee Tinaglia?
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to, tonight, make a motion that we waive the bond requirement for St. James Church.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Tinaglia, second by Trustee LaBedz. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call?
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Canty,
Yes.
Trustee Baldino,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. All right, we move on then in the agenda to new business. We do have two items to consider tonight. The first is a request for variations by Verizon Wireless, located at 375 East Palatine Road, and the variations are for new signs at this existing location. Is the petitioner present? And is there a spokesman?
Mr. President, I'm present.
All right, is that Tracy Deal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Tracy, why don't you tell us what you're looking to do here?
The sign variation is for an additional wall sign, and I believe it's on the west elevation. And the design review board recommended approval of this sign based on the alternatives suggested would not be appropriate for this location. The sign is for traffic coming from that entrance to be able to locate their destination within the parking lot without any kind of vehicular confusion, and proposed to be smaller than the same size as the signs on the other elevations, and all of the signs were recently renovated and the sizes were all reduced. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Okay, let me first go to Charles Perkins, our Director of Community Planning and Community Development. Charles?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. As mentioned, this is a request for an additional sign. Currently, the property has a sign variation for 3 signs when only 1 sign is allowed, and they are requesting a sign be on every facade. As I'd mentioned, the sign code allows 1 sign per street frontage. There have been 3 signs on this building since it was Wag's Restaurant many years ago. The information we have is that the additional sign is on the east side of the building. There are previous sign variations were approved again in 2009 for Verizon for the north and the west and the south walls of the building. They also have a ground sign that was approved as a variation quite a few years ago as well. Staff has recommended denial of this particular request. The Design Commission recommended approval of it. Staff had suggested other elements such as adding awnings or improving their entry canopy to create more of a focal point. We felt 4 signs, 1 sign on each facade was just excessive in comparison with what the village code requires other typical buildings. However, having stated that, the Design Commission has recommended approval of the variation request.
right, thank you, Mr. Perkins. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I've driven by, well, first of all, I'm a Verizon customer, but it has nothing to do with this because I'm getting nothing out of them. But I will say that I think that it's a unique position that this Verizon location has. Traffic goes by the property very quickly. And once you're inside the property, I think that it's not easy to determine where all the stores are located because it's a very large shopping center with a lot of parking spaces. You know, I mean, if you look at that entire building, you might be able to make a case that they deserve a sign on the back of the building as well. But I think that being able to see it from the east, the west, and then also being able to see it on the front facade, because I thought, you know, I looked at the building and I thought, well, if you were to eliminate one of the signs to give them 3 of them, you know, which sign would you remove? And so while they have a ground sign, you wouldn't be able to really tell that the store is located right there. And on the east and the west, they need that signage because the people that pull in on the west need to be able to know that they're going to that location. And AT&T, which, you know, from my experience, literally has billboards in their windows, which I believe violate village code. And people would not be able to see from the east that that's a Verizon location. So I'm comfortable to concur with the plan commission or with the design commission. So at the appropriate time, I'm ready to make a motion.
Any further questions? Trustee Baldino.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a point of clarification, there are already 3 existing signs on the building. Is that correct, Charles? One on the north side, one on the west side, and one on the south side. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
In addition to that, there's a ground sign out in the front of the building on Palatine Road.
That's correct. There's a grand monument, grand sign, yes.
I just wanted to make that clear because it was a bit confusing when Trustee Scaletta was making his point there. So they're asking for another sign on the east side of the building facing the AT&T building. That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay. So I understand the desire to stay competitive with AT&T and their store there. I also understand the point about the window signs and that get taken care of, but that's a separate issue. My feeling on this is that I don't understand how this sign on the east side is going to help because the traffic on Palatine Road going from east to west is across a boulevard and can't see the sign. Okay, I happen to use this store and I happen to know that if you pull into the parking lot next to the Verizon building, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at my map here, so I'm not looking at the camera. You can't see the east facade until you're actually in that parking lot. So I understand the intent here. I understand the desire to do this to stay competitive, but I don't understand how this is going to help. And we spend a lot of time talking about signs for other businesses and talking about limiting them so they don't have signs all the way around their building. I happen to agree with staff on this one, even though I'm sympathetic to Verizon's desire to stay competitive. I think that 4 wall signs and a ground sign is excessive. And so I disagree with the design commission on this one. I'm sorry to say. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Further questions? Trustee Tinaglia.
Thanks, Mayor Hayes. Charles, so we have 3 on the building, so we're clear on that.
That's correct.
Are there any other buildings that we can think of in a shopping center outlet like this that we've given 4 wall signs to? Can you think of anything?
I can't think of any that have 4. There are a few that have 3, but I can't think of any that have a sign on every single facade of an outlot building, no.
Does it concern you at all that the precedent that we might set here tonight if we were, based on previous petitions who might want 3, and we only gave them 2, and now we have 3 and we're thinking about giving a 4th. Does that concern you? Is that part of the reason why you, as staff's commentary said, recommendation would be not to do it?
Yes, I mean, that's our primary reason for our recommendation from a staff point of view. And we recognize the design commission and the board, can grant the variation, but our concern is, having a standard that we apply for all businesses throughout the community with similar situation. And, what is the kind of unusual, unique situation. So we have supported some variations in the past. For example, I think Culver's on Northwest Highway has 2 or 3 signs on their building. The paint store at that location was, I recall, came in and got additional variation due to the uniqueness of the angle of the street. So we have supported those variations when they have a true hardship. But we felt that wasn't the case in this situation, and it was hard to justify staff supporting a wall sign on every facade when the code really only allowed 1 and they currently have approval for 3, especially when there are other options to improve the building from an aesthetic point of view with awnings or even making their entry feature more prominent, which would be more visible to the majority of traffic on Palatine Road.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Charles. I'm not an attorney, but I understand hardship and I understand how those words are critical for variations. And I think what I'd like to do now is ask the petitioner, when you applied for this variation, what is your hardship for not the 2nd, not the 3rd, but the 4th wall sign on it, if you don't mind?
Am I muted? Okay. The Verizon store actually has 5 signs approved. Not the Verizon, the AT&T store has 5 signs approved by variation. The Verizon store has recently reduced their signage, and it's still less than what their previous variation was approved at. The particular difficulty or hardship is that this is an existing retail structure that has 3 parking lot frontages, and it has essentially 3 street frontages. While it may only front on Palatine Road, it actually has access to multiple points of the parking lot where vehicular traffic is coming from the back and the sides. And the ground sign is not visible from that vantage point. So granting the variance would not create a traffic hazard, but rather improve the safety and welfare of the public by allowing persons that are coming from that vantage point from Rand Road to identify their destination when they are unfamiliar with this destination and this shopping center. The variation would serve to relieve the applicant from a difficult attribute to the location and the topography or the circumstances surrounded, being that the existing mature trees and multiple points of entry, as well as several parking lot frontages, create a uniqueness to this location that creates a hardship. It would be for a single sign on the east elevation, and it would be for a reduction of overall sign area from what was previously approved. The new sign does not give them a competitive advantage, but it allows them to take their place in the shopping center among other retail businesses that already have multiple signs on multiple elevations. Additionally, the variation will not alter the essential character of this location. There are already other locations that have signs that exist on multiple points of entry. As the point was made, AT&T, for example, just happens to be a direct competitor, but if it was another business, it still has 5 signs. And the sign proposed is consistent with the other signs that exist here. It doesn't alter the character of the neighborhood or the location or the zoning. With a direct competitor next door, the business does need to be able to provide customers with their choices. And when patrons are approaching from that entrance and they arrive at that parking lot, as another board member already stated, that elevation is not visible until they get upon it. The ground sign is not visible, and the other signs on the other elevations are not visible. So it is essential for this business to be able to give customers or potential customers the advantage to be able to locate their destination. And existing customers who are seeking a Verizon store that are unfamiliar with this location definitely need to be able to find it as well.
Okay, I hear you. Charles, let me ask you one more quick question on the AT&T building. I remember when that was a Gap clothing store, and they used to have mannequins in the windows and advertise their jeans and T-shirts and so on. And when I think it was AT&T that bought it or moved in there right away and changed those window show, what would you call those, window boxes or whatever, the little showroom areas, they painted them orange and brightly colored, and they put their language in there. I thought it was genius. I couldn't believe they were able to do what they did without actually putting signs on the building. They just decorated from the inside and did what they did. Are we calling those signs? Are those part of the 5 signs that, this petitioner is referring to, or are there different signs that are the 5 signs?
Yeah, there are. Those are not what we're referring to as signs in our report and review, and there are some issues with what they've recently done with those windows. You're correct. They are window displays, and they had painted the wall behind the window, and that meets code. But now they've affixed things to the window, and that has been referred to the Building Life Safety Department, and I believe they're in the process of following up on that from a code enforcement point of view. With respect to the actual signs, the AT&T building is a little different in that it fronts on 2 streets, Rand Road and Palatine Road, so it's allowed 2 signs to begin with. It also is a little different in that each entrance has kind of a little bump out on each building, if you recall, Trustee Tinaglia. And there's 2 entrances on each little kind of triangle bump out that comes out on that building. On one of those, there is a logo above each entrance. It's the little circular AT&T logo, and each one of those is classified as a sign. And then on the larger tower that is right on the corner, again, it's a double entrance point of view, and there's a round logo with AT&T underneath it. And because it's not all in line as one sign, we count it as 2, but really it reads as 1. So in our opinion, I mean, if you're looking at it objectively, it looks like 3 signs on the building, but the way we categorize it, because there's breaks in the sign and it's not all in one line, we count the logo and the AT&T when they're positioned like that as 2 signs.
So when we think of north, east, south, and west walls of any particular building, how many of the walls from AT&T's building have one of these signs on them?
So on the south wall facing the parking lot, they have a logo and an AT&T as one wall sign. Then on the west side of the building, there's an entrance, and they have 2 logos on that entrance. And then on the kind of northeast side, they have 2 signs just on this tower here. So if you can see my cursor.
Yep.
There's a logo and an AT&T sign there and there. And then this is another entrance, and there's just a logo here and a logo here, and then one sign right here.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Charles.
All right, Trustee Rosenberg.
I'm good. I mean, I originally had an objection, but when I look at the total variation for the number of square footage, it's still over, I think, 60 square feet less than what it was, and less than the adjacent AT&T. So I'm okay with that, because AT&T has 153 square feet of signage, and and Verizon, even with their 4th sign now, only has 109. So even though I'm not crazy about the 4th sign, the fact that the square footage is still about 40 some square feet less than what they used to have that we had approved, and less than the AT&T, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Anybody else on the board? Questions? Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. Charles, I guess one of the things that I was wondering is staff's concern that this would be precedent setting if we were to allow this. If we were to allow this, is it truly precedent setting, or is it just that, oh, well, some other developer can argue we did it with somebody else, but they would still have to meet their hardship criteria if they wanted a variance, correct?
Correct. I mean, technically, it shouldn't be precedent setting, but it is something that others will point to, and it is something that we look at when we evaluate sign variation requests, trying to make sure that what has been granted in the past in comparable situations is appropriate. So it is something we look at. I think the board can base its decision if based on a unique set of circumstances and make that part of the record. And it really shouldn't be precedent setting, but it will be something that gets looked at, just like the AT&T ones are getting looked at tonight, as a comparison.
Sure, because I would think that we very rarely get a project that's exactly the same somewhere else in town, so we would have to look at each one individually. And that's kind of how where I'm thinking of in this respect. Anyway, all right, thanks.
Okay,
that's all.
Trustee Canty.
Really quickly, Ms. Deal, is there a reason that Verizon can't do the recommendations from staff to add the awnings that might have some logo or alternative signage, for lack of a better word?
Yes, ma'am. The design commission recommended against that. They were not happy about the idea of an awning, and an awning also will eventually collect bird residue and become very difficult to maintain and be unattractive on that facade.
Okay, thanks. That was my only question.
Okay, Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to apologize because I misread the information that was given to us. There is a sign on the back side of the building. I think this is a unique situation, and I think that trying to keep a business competitive in Arlington Heights is important to this board, or at least is important to me. And I would move to concur with the Design Commission's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Schwingbeck. Any further questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience on this agenda item? Seeing none, let's take a roll call.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Canty?
Yes.
Trustee Baldino?
No.
President Hayes?
Yes. Well, motion carries. Congratulations, Tracy and your team, and best of luck in the future.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members of the commission. I appreciate your help this evening.
All right, good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, we move on in the agenda under new business to the second item, and that's a request for rezoning from B3 to B2 and a land use variation to allow a commercial kennel in the newly created B2 district of pet suites to be located at 1050 East Rand Road. Is the petitioner present?
Yes, petitioner's present.
Mr. Fursell, welcome. And why don't you tell us what they're looking to do here?
All right, Charles, if you could put up the very short PowerPoint. This is the existing or former Teddy's Liquor at 1050 East Rand Road. We are requesting, let's see if I can go to the next one. I can't control that. There we go. So this is the original plan for this site back from 1988. As you can see, the Teddy's Liquor Store was built. This was approved as future shops all the way up to this distance from the property line to the southwest. You can also see there was a Dunkin' Donuts to the northwest already here, and I can only assume it was replaced with what is there today. So I just wanted to give you a background of what the site plan that was approved states. Unfortunately, Charles, I can't do, there we go.
Yeah, just let me know when you want to advance to the next one and I'll move it forward.
All right. So this one's good if we could. So this is the existing conditions. You can see the front of the existing store. To the right is the east side. I'm sorry, the southern side, southwest side, where we are proposing an outdoor activity area. The bottom left is what we believe this site will look like once our exterior revisions are made. Note the not a lot of signage on this building. This one sign here on the front. A particular note is the existing, I guess I can say it, monstrosity of the Teddy's Liquor sign that I believe is somewhere around 23 to 25 feet high and is at least 15 feet wide. You can see on the bottom the proposed sign, which the design commission, the plan commission recommended approval, and very, very simple. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to read the entire building summary. It was part of the plan commission report. But again, this is only going to be one-story building. It is for a pet resort. There will only be suites for 10 cats. The rest will be dogs. The second bullet point is one of the most important, that Pet Suites is a division of the National Veterinary Associates, has 748 animal hospitals, clinics, and emergency rooms, plus 89 pet resorts over 5 countries and 44 states in the U.S. They have been in this business since the year 2000, with other NVA brands of resorts being in business longer than that. This is a company that knows how to do what they are doing. What sets this apart from other pet resorts is the outdoor activity area. I'm trying to anticipate questions. This will be under full-time employee supervision, cleaned by employee personnel at least 3 to 4 times a day and as needed, to protect the animals and in and out. There will be a solid vinyl-clad fence around the outdoor activity area. One of the variations we're requesting is that a fence be 7 feet in height, not 6. This is not an exterior boundary fence. This is well within the interior of this property. Needless to say, there will be no animals walking, playing, exercising outside other than in this controlled, supervised activity area. This is not a veterinarian. This is a full-time boarding and grooming establishment. No formal medical care is going to take place here. The hours are 6:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. They will have a general manager, a resort manager, and other employees. They will, of course, have up to 10 part-time for the busier parts of the morning and evening, and hopefully will grow over the next 3 years. When I was first asked to represent the owner with regard to the pet suites, I pointed out that human nature would be, well, how much noise is going to be generated from inside and outside. Pet Suites has commissioned noise studies at many other locations, and the results are universally consistent. Representative of Pet Suites, Derek Evans, who runs the actual operation division for the company, is with us this evening and will be more than happy to answer any questions. Mike Lucas, also from Pet Suites, is with us. He is the Director of Development and can answer any questions as it relates to the site itself. There is not odor that comes from these facilities. They pick up, they wash down, dispose of all dog waste promptly, and then they use cleaning agents to disinfect and deodorize different areas of the building. And lastly, this is a very active, community-involved company, and they will provide tours, sponsor community events with partners and local businesses to host events. And if you were to go on their website, you will see they are very supportive of pets, homeless pets, and supporting animals, pets in general. Next slide, please. So this is the overall site plan with landscaping. As you can see, the dark area on the southwest, the shadowed area looks almost like what the addition that was approved is, but the outdoor area is much smaller. The fence is the white area around here. And then there is landscaping here on all sides. A condition of approval was landscaping along the southeast, which the petitioner has agreed to do. We will work with staff as to how far back this will go, because this is your trash enclosure, and that's quite a small opening, but we will landscape as requested. The trash enclosure will be masonry on two sides to match the brick of the building, with, of course, locking front entry gates. On the other side, you will see landscaping all along. The village has asked for additional landscaping, and we, of course, have agreed to provide it. And the landscaping within the signage area, this island, will, of course, be to code. One last note, as you can see, the Dunkin' Donuts over here to the west, to the northwest, much further from the property line, and obviously a much larger store. Our ingress and egress is full access onto Jane Avenue, both north and south, and we have a right turn in off of Rand, and then we have a right turn out. To access the site from the north, you would come in on Jane Avenue and come around into this entrance. To exit to the south, you would go down Jane Avenue and over to the light and exit that way. Next slide, please. So these are the elevations. You can see on the first elevation what the exterior outdoor activity area is with the 7-foot white fence. The piece in the middle is also one of the requested variation pieces. I'll give you a little better view of that in a future slide. The signage, very simple. One on the front, above the front entryway, and one on, I believe this is the west side of the building, if I'm not mistaken. And that is that plus the pylon sign is the signage that is being sought for this site. You can see the mansard is obviously gone. We are not changing the exterior of the building. We are not enlarging it. It is exactly in the same footprint as exists today. Next slide, please. So this is an example of the exterior area. It is sectioned off by these fences where small, medium, and large dogs will each be in a separate area. You can see the white clad fence. One of the variances is that this is considered an outdoor structure and therefore requires a variance. This is simply for shade and for weather. In the winter, dogs are out as well as staff. There will be a little warming shelter in here during the winter for staff to stay warm. And so one of the variances to allow this to remain on the site full-time. This is just simply another view. These are outdoor kennels or outdoor suites for pets. Sometimes they prefer to be outdoors here. And of course, like I said, sanitation is very, very important and is constantly done throughout the day. Next slide, please. Very quickly, this is what the interior looks like with the different size kennels. The cat area is very small over here. They do have a small retail presence up in the front where you can buy certain toys or other things for your pet. And they have a grooming area, a bathing area where dogs can be groomed and bathed. And here are the entryways out into and from the activity area for the 3 different size pets. And this is obviously the canopy we were referring to and the fencing all around. The garbage is removed this way, out this door, and into the, this is exactly where it is today. And that's where our trash containers will be. Next slide, please. That's it. So there are no, I have other slides only if you have any questions. That ends my presentation. And if you have any questions, we have our traffic consultant, we have our engineer, and as I said, representatives of Pet Suites. Jack Westfall, the petitioner, is also with us to help answer any questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fursell. Let me first go to the staff. Mr. Perkins, do you have some comments?
Yes, I do, Mayor. Very quickly, if everybody can see the screen. So the site is being requested to be rezoned to B2. It is shown B2 on our zoning map, but was rezoned to B3, and we show no record of that since the 8 is being rezoned to B2. So we spoke to the petitioner, and as part of this, they agreed to request to actually classify it as B2, which is the correct zoning that it should be. Immediately to the west and east, the properties are already zoned B2. So this would be, correcting that error and being consistent. The site, as you saw before, is adjacent to the Dunkin' Donuts. One update I'd like to provide is at the Plan Commission meeting on August 26th, there were some comments and concerns from some residents in the neighborhood about backup traffic from Dunkin' Donuts drive-through backing up and congesting Jane Avenue. So we did ask the engineering division of Public Works to have the traffic engineer go out and observe the situation. They went out on 3 mornings last week and again this morning, observing the situation between the hours of 7:20 and about 8:20 in the morning. And they did observe that there were anywhere from 3 to 4 cars, maybe 6 to 7 per hour that were backing up onto Jane Avenue. Typically the backup on Jane Avenue lasted about a minute and a half for each vehicle. There was one occasion where one vehicle did remain backed up on Jane Avenue for 10 minutes, but that appears to be unusual. So there is about a half an hour or so backup during that peak hour in the morning of traffic predominantly coming from Rand Road. There are some westbound Jane Avenue traffic that backs up trying to enter the site at this point as well. So as a result of that, we did research the Dunkin' Donuts property, and in 2001, when that property was approved, there was a condition on the Dunkin' Donuts property that they enter into an agreement, if requested by the village, for cross-access to the east. So we've had discussions with Mr. Fussell, and he's had discussions with his client, and everybody is in agreement with this additional potential condition, should the board choose to consider it, that upon request of the village, that the petitioner agree to provide a cross-access easement agreement to the property to the west, so long as it is operated as Dunkin' Donuts, in order to accommodate a point of shared westbound egress onto Rand Road at the existing egress point on the petitioner's property. Such agreement would be implemented so long as there were no internal access or any other issues or other portions of the petitioner's property, and that there are traffic controls implemented to avoid any negative impacts on Pet Suite's property, and that any improvements necessary, both the study, the design, and the construction, would not be the responsibility of Pet Suites. And the reason for that recommendation, going back to this site plan, would be the potential after further study to allow an egress only from this point, generally out to this right turn lane to go northbound on Rand Road. If, and we don't know without further study, if exiting traffic, exiting onto Jane is causing part of the backup on Jane to enter, this relief valve would help that situation. We're not asking for Pet Suites to accommodate stacking on their site to enter the site. We're not asking Pet Suites to have large volumes of traffic exit the site to go back to Jane to then try to go back west to Rand Road. This still needs further study by a full traffic study analyzing the issues with Dunkin' Donuts. But we thought this condition would allow the flexibility to implement that at some point in the future. And that is in addition to the Plan Commission recommendation and these 6 conditions that were included in your packet. And be happy to answer any questions. We do think this is a great project. It's a great reuse of a building that's been vacant for at least 2 years. And they're making some nice improvements to the exterior facade and landscaping. And the site as a Pet Suites will have significantly less traffic than it would as a typical retail type use. So I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody would has any.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Any questions from the village board? Trustee Rosenberg.
Thank you. Someone from the Pet Suites, is there a person on duty all night, Mike?
Derek, unmute yourself, please. This is Derek Evans, the operations manager for Pet Suites. Go ahead, Derek.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Derek Evans. At our facilities, we do not have someone on staff overnight. We have people in the facility from 6:30 in the morning until 8 at night. When the staff leaves in the evening, we activate our alarm system, which has motion detectors. So if any pets were able to get out of their enclosures, we then have an escalation process where the closest person that lives near the facility is able to come and check on it. and make sure that everything is safe and okay. And so we've used that successfully at all of our other facilities and don't see incidents of any issues overnight.
Are there cameras inside the facility that are monitored all night, or?
We do have cameras in most of our facilities. Again, we only access them when needed, but the managers on site do have remote access, so they are able to log in when needed to take a look.
Okay. And you don't provide any kind of veterinary services, or do you have a vet on call, for emergencies, things like that?
Yeah, we usually will build a partnership with our local veterinarians, both for general practice care as well as emergency care in case something were to come up overnight. And so we'll establish that with local relationships, whether it's one of our parent company, National Veterinary Associates, or just one of your local community veterinarians to identify those places where we'll take pets. We also try to build relationships with the veterinarians that provide the most care for the pets in our area. So typically the top 3 to 5 in our immediate area, we always try to work with our local partners to be good partners and making sure we're building those positive relationships with the vets as well as the shelters.
Yeah, there's actually one probably, I think, about a half a mile away, right on Palatine Road.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so very
That's
cool.
fantastic. Yeah, well, it's great having somebody nearby. We often try to partner on vaccination clinics and making sure we're making it as easy as possible for all of our pets to be vaccinated.
Thank you. Mr. Frizzell, do we have a map or something that shows the closest proximity to residential for Charles?
Charles, if you could put the site plan back up, or your plan would work, Charles.
I was picking the first one that we had available. So this Trustee Rosenberg shows approximate distances from kind of the edge of the outdoor play area. So it's just over 100 feet to the 4 townhomes that are located at this location. And it's about 225 or so feet to the home on the north side of Jane, at Jane and Clarence. I believe this other line is just, I think this is a garage, so this is the home on the lot. So it's about 225 feet from this home and just over 100 feet to the closest townhome.
So from the standpoint of having the animals come out during the day, are they out first thing in the morning then, like before 8 o'clock, or?
Yes, basically 6:30, but Derek, if you would explain why, it's a very logical and plausible explanation.
I understand they have to relieve themselves.
Yes, that's exactly why.
Right. So, yeah, our daily routine, again, where our open hours are from 6:30 to 8 typically. And our routine will start with getting the boarding dogs out to relieve themselves. So that's usually just a quick trip outside, give them a chance to stretch their legs before we bring them back inside. Typically around between 7 and 9 o'clock, as people start to show up for daycare, we'll then begin group play outside. And that's where we're starting to bring the dogs out into the daycare yard. Again, we monitor the yards closely for noise. What you might expect to hear a lot of barking in reality as the dogs kind of get situated, get used to being there, and there's only employees there. The barking usually settles out very quickly. If it doesn't, then we're quick to address that. We'll bring the pets back inside. We have indoor play yards as well, so we're able to transition those dogs to indoor play if they're making an excessive amount of noise, and we'll work with the owners to try to mitigate that as best as possible. One of the key things that we really pride ourselves on is being good community partners. We've got some additional slides in Mr. Frizzell's deck that talk about many of the facilities that we have that back up to residential, in some places closer than what we're proposing here for this location. And we always try to be good partners to understand what the issues are that are coming up and trying to find ways to mitigate them. So as part of the conditions of approval for this site, one of the things we're all committing to is reviewing the sound, making sure that if there are any noise complaints, whether it's morning, evenings, weekends, daytime, that we're figuring out what those complaints are. We really would ask that the residents bring them to us, help us understand their concerns, and we'll make sure we're addressing them. We believe that what we're proposing is not going to be a significant burden on the community, and that we'll be able to find ways to mitigate any concerns that they have.
Okay, thank you for your care.
Any other questions from the board? Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple questions for you. I assume that the building is sprinkled?
Are you asking me?
I don't know who I'm asking. Well, the petitioner
well, we happen to have our engineer online. Steve Shanholzer, could you pop on and answer that for us?
Sure. Steve Shanholzer from Manhard Consulting. I believe, the question was, is there a fire suppression?
The building sprinkler.
Yeah, I don't know if I know that. It would probably be more of the architectural question. I'm not sure if it has fire suppression or not in the current condition.
The answer is we don't know.
Charles, does staff know? I mean,
I don't know whether I don't know whether the building has a fire suppression system when it was built in the 80s, but I would imagine this is a change of use that will trigger that requirement, and we can verify that tomorrow. But when they come in for their building permit with all the detailed plans, they would have to meet our current codes and regulations. And with the boarding and overnight boarding of animals, I would imagine this is a change of use. So if it's doesn't have a suppression system, any building over 5,000 square feet needs to have one when there's a change of use.
Mayor, if I can jump in for a second on that.
Sure.
It indicates on the fire safety review that fire protection equipment and service rooms shall be identified, and a certificate of expenses for the fire sprinkler and fire alarm shall be provided prior to occupancy. So I assume that means that there is one.
I was just putting that up, that report up, but that is part of the fire suppression. That's part of it. So the answer is, if there isn't, there will be.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question, because I think that when people that are watching this meeting, whether they're watching it live or whether they're watching it in reruns, they want to make sure that these animals, if they're not going to be attended to overnight, that they are going to be safe. And so that's why I'm asking that first question. So one way or the other, there will be a sprinkler or a fire suppression system in the building. If there's not one now, there will be by the time you open, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Mr. Evans, I just want to make clear that, in that neighborhood, because it really is a neighborhood of residents, and you're just on the outskirts of that, that they don't expect to hear noise of truck delivery or garbage removal or any other commercial business until 7 a.m. or later. And so while you're saying that you guys are going to start at 6:30, and that might be great, if it becomes a problem, I'm sure you're going to hear from the village, and that you're going to have to change, your policy of how you let these visitors to our town out.
Absolutely. We have adapted out of the 30 facilities that we have one today that operates starting at 7 o'clock. We also have other locations that are in similar situations where that hasn't become an issue, but that was one of the things we've done in the past to mitigate those types of concerns, and certainly would be something we would do here if it was necessary. Great.
Charles, in the event that there was a cross easement for access through the Dunkin' Donuts, you mentioned that there would be a traffic study. Who's paying for that traffic study?
Well, we would imagine that would be Dunkin' Donuts, because the issues are created by their backup of drive-through traffic on Jane Avenue. We're thinking it would not be egress from this site to Dunkin' Donuts, but egress from Dunkin' Donuts to the Pet Suite site for immediate access northbound onto Rand Road to try to relieve any exiting pressure on the Dunkin' Donuts exit on Jane Avenue.
And the ordinance, the approving ordinance did say all costs associated with the cross easement would be borne by Dunkin' Donuts.
That's correct. The 2001 condition of Dunkin' Donuts special use does spell that out.
Okay, don't disagree, just making sure that we're all on the same page as we're going through this approval process. Finally, I'd like to just say, if everything goes well for you tonight, welcome to town. I think that you'll be a welcome addition. We have many people who own pets in town, and it would be great to see that building be reused in a positive way. So thank you for considering Arlington Heights. I have no further questions.
Anything else from the board? Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. I have a couple of questions. One is oftentimes we see a market study for a new business like this, and one wasn't done in this case, but there was reference to another nearby dog boarding place that I believe it's at South Point. And so I was curious what kind of your own market study that you would have done. I mean, you would have had a reason to have selected this location and selected Arlington Heights. And part of my question also has to do with what kind of radius do you normally draw from for your dogs and cats that board?
Thanks, Trustee. If I could ask Charles to put our presentation up, and I think Mike Lucas, if you could be allowed in to, because Mike selected the site. So could you please scroll down here, Charles? Keep going to the radius map. Okay, Mike, could you answer that question for us?
Yes, good evening, board. Yes, we do our own market study, and what we find is there tends to be a lot of dog businesses. Some are very complementary, some are competitive, but what we found is that, and what this slide shows is that a couple of the other areas where we're competing or have locations, there are usually several dog businesses within 2 to 5 and up to 10 miles away, and not only are we competitive, do we compete with them, but oftentimes, as this slide notes, we will locate another resort of ours within those 10 miles. So this particular location is outside of Atlanta, similar kind of densely populated suburban area. And, there are, again, several competitors, but 2 out of them are actually pet suites that we run. One just recently opened. So we do look at the population, the numbers, the folks that own dogs, and kind of determine unique trade areas. We did the same thing for Arlington Heights when we looked within the Chicago area. We felt this was a great area with strong population, a lot of dog ownership, and felt that multiple businesses could do well to compete in this space.
Yeah, there's another slide as well, Charles, if you could go to that one as well. Same thing.
Same thing. This is, yes, exactly. This is in Charlotte. And so not only are we locating additional resorts in this area, but there are a couple other competitors that have multiple outlets within 5 miles of each other. So it is possible. We find that that folks kind of pick one of our brand attributes is convenience, and why you're able to have multiple locations is that you're really located based on that convenient travel pattern and how people are getting to or from work or from wherever they're going. And a lot of the time those change and enable you to have multiple resorts within that same area.
So you're likely to get a number of people from within a 5-mile radius as your customers, 10-mile radius?
Sorry, I did miss that point. So typically what we look at is a 15-minute drive time. Mostly that's for kind of those daycare. So we find the majority of our customers are driving that peak drive time. So depending on traffic conditions, that can be a couple miles, that can be 10 miles. But 5 miles and 15 minutes is probably a pretty good assessment.
Okay, thank you. And I echo what Trustee Scaletta said. Thank you for choosing Arlington Heights. I don't personally have a pet, but lots of people do. And I understand that this pandemic has caused lots more pet adoptions, and eventually people will be going back to their offices, and I imagine these locations will be needed more than ever. So thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, let me go to the audience. Are there any members of the audience who wish to address this agenda item? I am seeing none, so I'll go back to the board for further discussion or a motion. And we do have the additional recommended condition as agreed to and as explained by Mr. Perkins. Trustee Baldino.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I love this project. I think this is a wonderful business partner, and I think the thing I love most about it is that it's going in right next to South Point Mall, which has been in need of more business, and so I would be happy to move approval.
Second.
And the motion to approve includes the additional condition, is that correct?
That's correct,
Okay.
Mayor. Thank you.
So motion by Trustee Baldino, second by Trustee LaBedz. Any further questions?
No, Canty.
It was Trustee Canty, okay. Any further questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Baldino?
Yes.
Trustee Canty?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. Well, again, good luck to Pet Suites and welcome to Arlington Heights. Thank you again for choosing our community, and we wish you many years of great success at this location.
And allow me to thank you and your incredible staff. The planning department was a major assistance. And Trustee Scaletta, the building is currently sprinklered, but it will be updated. So I looked that up while you were discussing matters, but I really want to extend our sincere thanks. And we really look forward to having Pet Suites in Arlington Heights as soon as possible. Thank you and good evening.
All right, thank you. We move on then in the agenda to the report of the village manager, and we do have one very important item to discuss tonight under diversity, equity, and inclusion and our audit and plan. So, Mr. Recklaus?
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, staff is recommending that the village hire the Kaleidoscope Group, which is a Chicago firm, to conduct a diversity, equity, and inclusion audit and plan. We interviewed 4 firms as part of our process. Kaleidoscope was chosen over the other firms, given this, not only the strength of their proposal, but the breadth of their experience and a demonstrated understanding of experience with municipal governments as organizations. Given the community interest in this topic, we do have representatives of Kaleidoscope to talk a little bit about their firm and their approach, but I do want to note first that this project is driven by the village board's strategic priority to find new ways to embrace diversity within the organization or within the community in the village government that we developed back in 2019. While the group will be focusing primarily on a review of the village government as an employer, they will be hosting some community engagement meetings as part of their scope of work that'll provide insights into the perspectives of our residents to inform the process. And the feedback and dialogue occurring during these sessions can be used to inform other community decisions as well. They're going to be looking at assessing our organization using a number of tools, and will provide a final report, a strategic framework, and a plan to the village board and staff And at that point, we can consider which of the recommendations they make that we wish to pursue and when and how. I do also want to note quickly that in addition to this project, staff is continuing other projects as part of this strategic priority, including a continuation of last year's unconscious bias training for village employees, efforts to increase the number of minority and female police officer candidates, and a disability assessment. There will be a web page outlining the village's ongoing DEI efforts that hopefully will go up over the next few days. And staff really thinks this overall effort will help us ensure that we're doing our best to be a welcoming and inclusive community for our employees and the community members that we all serve. But that being said, I would like to introduce Chris Jorgis and Tanya Settles to discuss Kaleidoscope and their approach.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Can you all hear me?
We've got you, Chris.
Okay, great. It's a pleasure to be here. I've really appreciated this time we've spent. We have also another colleague with us tonight, Jesse Lee. He's also going to be playing a major role in the engagement as well. And these are actually my two colleagues who work alongside a lot of our different municipality clients and departments and agencies within those. So I'm really excited to have them there and with you and with us tonight. So real quickly, I know it's getting late. We just will want to take you through, if we could, just a quick intro to Kaleidoscope Group so you feel a little bit more connected to who we are and our history and foundation, and then a quick run through of kind of just what Randy shared in a work plan format that you can see. So I'm not sure, Tanya, if you can cast the slides, but here we go. Okay. Thank you. So we think about this work, we think about it from a transformation standpoint, and we really connect it to the foundation and the fabric of who you are. And we know a welcoming community is really, kind of your vision and what you aim to live and be and achieve every day. So that's going to be our goal, making sure that DEI is really connected to that. Quick rundown. I've been with Kaleidoscope Group now for 28 years. I started with the organization when we started way back in 1993. I am the Chief Operating Officer and I work alongside our Chief Executive Officer, Doug Harris. We are a minority owned organization who's also certified. We do live this work. So we are a minority majority organization. We are what you consider a full service diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting firm, which means we can help organizations of all different shapes and sizes and structures, if you will, to really be able to maximize and transform because of the diversity that it has or the diversity that it's wishing to bring. And when we think about this, we think about it from a culture change standpoint. So at the end of the day, it's not about, really just addressing gaps and filling holes. It's really about creating something very intentional and impactful for the organization. So we're very, we're very conscious to make sure that everything we do, we start with the end in mind. The last thing that I'll share is we've partnered with over 800 clients over the last almost 30 years, and everything is grounded in organization success. This is just a quick recap and a snapshot of a few of our government and municipality clients. As you can see, kind of just all different shapes and sizes, even to them as well. And if we go to the next slide, when we think about, this work, we really do think about it from a transformation and change management standpoint. So we always start with the end in mind. What is your vision? What are you ultimately trying to achieve? And then from there, we take you on the journey. And all journeys are different depending on where the organization's foundation is, to, kind of what measurements and metrics and impact look like all the way around. As we go through this work, we encounter people in all different places, some being resistant, some being really excited. And what we do that's really, I think, different is we're actually able to kind of unpack where everybody is, understand it, and then help move people along and give people the chance to really be able to grow from this work and come together around it. So this is our change management process. And as we go to the next slide, really looking at it, kind of from the vantage point of inclusion. And so these are some of the different factors that we think about when it comes to inclusion: representation, the commitment level, equity, individual connection to it, people really having a voice and feeling empowered, and then valuing differences. And with those levers or indicators, really get a sense of where people are around those areas, and then come back to you with kind of our findings, and most importantly, the recommendations on how you might, want to proceed and go forward, as Randy had talked about. And then this next slide really just takes us to really looking at our project overview. So I'm going to turn this over to Tanya.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you. I'm Tanya Settles. I'm the project engagement leader for working with Arlington Heights. Our goal for you is to do everything that we can to help you support that objective of creating and sustaining a welcoming community. So what I'll do for you this evening is take you pretty quickly through what the key project objectives are and how we're going to help you get there, and then talk a little bit about what some of the outcomes are. So we are a data-driven organization, so we'll be collecting a series of data that ranges from surveys to the workforce, to listening groups, to the community, because we believe that both perspectives are important. We'll also be working to help you identify where there may be potential gaps in service delivery that might be related to differences or inequities in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And of course, we always want to help you support the goal of creating a transparent and accountable government. This work will be done over a series of 4 distinct phases. The first one is to just meet with leaders of the village of Arlington Heights. We'll be conducting a few interviews with leaders, and then we'll develop some preliminary recommendations that will lay the groundwork for the work that we do in phases 2, 3, and 4. Phase 2 consists of up to 4 community listening sessions with members of the community. Each one of those groups will consist of up to about 20 people. And I'm actually really excited about that, because one of the things I've learned tonight is that you have an incredibly engaged and active community. So I look forward to the opportunity to meet with them more. In phase 3, we will distribute a survey to the workforce within the government of Arlington Heights. This survey is something that we've used in other engagements, so it's statistically normed, and I'm crossing my fingers for a large sample and lots of participation. But one of the best things about using a survey and the focus groups is that we create an opportunity for the community to also have voice in the process. For the workforce to have voice in the process. And then the last thing that we'll do is we'll meet with you again in about 2 months' time. We'll conduct a briefing for the management team, and then we'll also do another 1-hour presentation for you and tell you what our findings are. In addition, we'll also be developing a 12-month strategic framework so that the Village of Arlington Heights has an idea about where to go once this engagement ends. And then the last thing I'd like to talk with you about is the value of your investment. We know that local governments are struggling and that it's been an incredibly difficult and expensive year. And so I want to give you some insight about what you can expect on the tail end of this. One is improved efficiency in government. Improved efficiency comes from identifying where gaps in service delivery may occur. That can be remedied by looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're also looking for improved accountability and transparency in government, improved employee engagement, creating that welcoming community that we know you want to sustain, and then create a series of success metrics and guidance for you at the end. So with that, I'll ask if anyone has any questions. That was a quick presentation, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Chris and Tanya. Let me just start off by thanking you for your assistance in this process. Again, as Mr. Recklaus indicated, we do take DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion very seriously in Arlington Heights, and that's why the Village Board has included it as one of our top goals and objectives for this year and in the years ahead. It is a very complex issue, as I know you know. I'm very glad to see that you are a Chicago firm and have a number of Chicago clients. And so I think it's very important that you do have that expertise in this particular area, not just to understand the DEI issues that are associated with the Chicago land area and the northwest suburbs, but also that you understand how local government is set up in the northwest suburbs and in the Chicagoland area, because when a lot of our residents think of local government, they only think of the village. But we all know that local government includes other elected bodies, and I hope that you will, in your work together, or at least consult with the Park District and the library and the school districts especially, because it really is a partnership effort, a team effort to try to address and solve these very important issues. And so I hope that your focus will include them in the big picture of local government as well. The last thing I just wanted to say was that I know some members of the community had hoped that we'd move quicker on this, but I'm very glad that we've gotten to this point tonight. Not only do we want to do it, but we want to do it right. And that's why we've moved very slowly and efficiently on this. And so we want to make sure that we do it right and that we address all the issues that we need to address and try to come up with solutions that are actually going to work and solve some of these very difficult and complex problems. And so, again, thank you for your efforts to this point, and I'm looking very much to meeting with you and to working together with you. So with that, I'll just open it up to other questions. Trustee Canty?
So first, Randy, I want to thank you for bringing this team before us tonight. This is an issue that I feel like we talk about a lot. I know I talk about it a lot, being a person of color on this board. It is extremely important to me that we do this right, as the mayor said. So I'm glad that we have found a minority-owned business that can come in and help us work through some of these issues and start to think of creative solutions that will be long-lasting, long after any one of us are on this project or even on this board. I do have one specific question in your phase one. So the change manager in me is going to come out a little bit. I know you had mentioned 3 interviews in phase one. Does that feel like enough interviews in that first phase? Because it sounds like so few when we think about a village that has 76,000 people in it, and then our staff, et cetera. So it sounds like not enough. So could you just take us through that a little bit?
Sure. Tanya, you want me to go first? So essentially,
Sure.
The 3 interviews are really just to help us understand your foundation. So kind of what got you to where you are now. And then as we move into the data collection and really understanding where you're at to go forward and the perceptions and perspectives, that's where we'll really expand, that pool of people who are going to be, kind of having their voices included in the process. So that 3 is just kind of getting us up to speed on what's happened so far. And then from there, that's when we'll bring in more of a mass voice.
Got it. Fantastic. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks. So as the mayor said, there are some folks that think we have moved too slowly. I'm one of those folks, but I am glad that we are doing this right, because I do think getting it right is better than getting it fast. So I agree with the mayor in that regard. Thank you all. That's all I have for right now.
All right, thank you. Trustee Scaletta. Trustee Scaletta, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So thank you for the proposal that you put forward, and I appreciate the time that you guys have put in thus far. When I looked at the website of your organization, you have so many professionals working with you. But when I see who's on here tonight and I look at the background, and I'm really happy to see Dr. Lee is joining us, because I went through all the different individuals that were on your website. And when I was really hoping that Dr. Lee would be part of this group, because, there's a lot that we need from your organization, because there's a lot of ideas that we've talked about and ideas that have been brought to us by residents and other organizations. But one of the I think the most important things that we need is that we need to have a little bit more of a diverse workforce when it comes to our police department. And while we have have made efforts, and the village manager has worked with the police chief to make additional efforts. Those haven't come to fruition like we had hoped. And so I'm looking forward to hearing some of the feedback from the overall team. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Dr. Lee, but I think that one of the things that we've talked about a lot is about how we can diversify our police force and add some people of color. Because I think that, when people talk about diversity in Arlington Heights, there's lots of diversity in Arlington Heights. We don't have a lot of people of color. And I think that that's, a difference is when people say, we're not a very diverse community. We are a very diverse community. We're just not a very diverse community when it comes to people of color. And so there's a lot that we want to, or that I want to learn from your group. And I look forward to you talking to members of our community and coming back to us with a report. So thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Thank you, Mayor. Tanya, Chris, thank you very much for your presentation. Just a quick question. I know we've got a lot of residents that want to be engaged in this process. And I noticed in your write-up that part of the cost of this to the village was having, I think you said up to 20 people and 4 groups of residents in the community engagement sessions. One of the questions that I have is the proposal that you gave us. In there, it said that there would be extra cost for additional meetings with the community. Can you give us an idea of what that extra cost would be? Because I think with 4 groups of 20, I think we're going to see a lot of residents that want to voice their opinions.
I can actually give you an idea about that cost. It is about $3,600 for every 2 sessions.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you. And thank you very much. And thank you, Randy and your team for bringing this group forward. I also spent a lot of time on the website, and I'm very excited about what you can provide for us. And I agree also with the mayor and Trustee Canty that we really want to do it right. We don't want to just pay lip service. This is going to be an ongoing process. It isn't something we can change in it overnight and then check a box and say we did it. That's not something that I want to see. And I think that you can provide this framework for us that will lead us into the future. I'm curious about what kind of differences do you find working with governmental agencies, municipalities, and so forth? I noticed that one of the municipalities you've worked with is the city of Evanston, and oftentimes they are held up to us as a municipality that's been able to go through this process with some success. But not just them, but just in general also, what kinds of differences do you see in working with governmental bodies? Take a pick. Whichever one wants to answer.
I'll go first, but would love for my colleagues to weigh in here. And, I think, geographic region is probably one of the biggest. So depending on, and you probably saw from that slide, depending on what part of the country we're in, can really dictate, the starting point and where they are and what they're really trying to achieve and sometimes solve for. So that geographic region of the country and their historical connection to this work really plays a major part when we're working with an organization or department or city or agency. And so at the end of the day, our goal really is to make sure that as we work with the leadership of that entity, whether it's a police chief, a commissioner of a fire department, or the leadership team of a municipality, that we're really able to understand what success looks like and what are they really trying to create. And oftentimes people come to us with the problems they're trying to solve, which are important, absolutely. But we really want to push, all of our clients to really think about how to really create impact and really empower and unify and bring people together because of their differences, so that everybody can really grow and the entity can really be the best version of itself. So I would say the biggest thing is that kind of geographic factor, along with kind of the commitment and the mindset around what success looks like. So those would be my two primary things. But Jesse or Tanya, please weigh in here too.
Yeah, I agree with you also, Chris. It's been my experience that leadership, we know that people reflect leadership. And right now, just the attentiveness that I watched this meeting, and you could tell I don't say much. I have a house full of sisters. I'm the only one. So I kind of listen. So it's not that I'm shy, but I just want to sit back and listen. And I listen to you take every situation and you did a holistic approach. You want to get it right. And I think that is one of the things that sets the tone, this particular type of leadership. So I really look forward to actually working with the group, because when I do see a difference is some individuals, they're more on the defensive side, and therefore they're not open for change. They're not looking for change. They say they want change, but they really don't. So in listening to every little aspect you took on every individual thing you've done, I've been on the call and I listened attentively, and I was very impressed with the leadership and the group. And I think you'll take the same attentive in what we're trying to do as well. And I think it's going to show, because I understand that everybody underneath of you understand how detailed and serious you are about everything you do. So I think the buy-in will be that much of a greater, and I think I'm really set up for greater success.
Thank you.
Trustee Rosenberg.
And if I could just
go ahead. Was it Tracy?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add that I'm sorry. It's Tanya.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to add that. Oh, that's all right. That one of my favorite things about working with local governments are people who work in local governments. We're motivated in different ways. They're very altruistic. They seek out positions in government because they really want to make a difference. They want to serve their community. They really are public servants, and there's an ethos that guides that. And I can see it here, just as my colleague Jesse was saying, that we see it in your leadership. I'm looking forward. I'm really looking forward to getting started and finding out more.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
all. I
Tanya.
appreciate that. Yeah, that's all I had.
Trustee Baldino.
I think Trustee Rosenberg had his hand up first. If you want to go first, Bert.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say a couple of things. I am fantastically excited about Kaleidoscope coming to help us out. I'm so happy to see that we as a village are moving forward with this goal that we have set for ourselves. But as I was looking through the presentation, a question kept coming back to my mind, and I don't know if Randy wants to answer this or the folks from Kaleidoscope want to answer this question. It seems like a very simple question, but I don't know that there's going to be a simple answer. What is your scope of work? I know that you're engaged to help equity and inclusion with our village staff. But I keep seeing other keywords in there like community inclusivity and community involvement. And so what is the scope that you're going to be helping us to achieve? Is it just village employment, or are you going to help us move forward as a community as a whole?
Yeah. Mr. Eckles, you want to start off with that?
If I could, we talked a lot about that, and obviously this could be a project with unlimited scope given the subject area. And what we're really looking to do is making sure that, one, as an employer, as we've talked about, we're doing what we can to be welcoming to our own staff and respectful of their differences and celebrating their differences and so forth. and welcoming new people into the organization, but also that our organization is equipped to serve our community in regards to these issues. And that, as they said, that DEI issues aren't a barrier to one segment of the population receiving the same good service that other segments of the population receive. But it is very much organization focused versus looking at how every neighborhood functions, or how maybe realtors work or businesses work. It's very much looking at us as a service provider and as an employer. And I don't know if Tanya, Jesse, or Chris, if you would want to put that any other way.
Okay, well, so I guess the second part of my question is, that was my understanding for hiring Kaleidoscope, and I think that's fantastic, as I said. But instead of looking at specifics like you were talking about, Mr. Recklaus, is it going to be part of your scope to help us help ourselves? And what I mean is to help us as village leadership help our community grow, not just our village staff.
I think we've had a lot of conversations as a board and staff and as a community leading up to this. And I think there's been a number of issues and questions posed by community members and by trustees. I think a lot of those issues may be dealt with in the recommendation process. And one of the things we talked about was, we're doing diagnosis before prescription here. And, given the expertise of Kaleidoscope, we really wanted them to look at what do we have going on, where are the gaps, where are the opportunities, and then have them kind of determine what do they recommend us kind of pursuing, discussing further, and implementing, versus telling them in advance, this is what we think we want to do. We wanted to rely on them because we realize this is an area we don't have expertise in. And I don't know if that answers your question fully.
It does, and I have said that a very similar thing, that I don't have the answers, and I'm really glad that, pardon the expression, we've got our hooks into these fine folks to help us figure out a way to find those answers as a community. And I really appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, now Trustee Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. So, question either maybe for Tanya to start, but so from the standpoint of evaluating internally our staff, will you be talking to each department then and getting kind of a feel for how each department reacts, as a department, or the structure of each department, and potentially any weaknesses in that department, in that area? Or will you be just talking to selected people within the staff?
So one of the techniques that we've used, that we've had a lot of success with, is using focus groups. And there's a couple of reasons. One is they're efficient. The other reason is that as people talk and communicate with one another, they think of new things, and the discussions become very robust. So there's two prongs to that. But we also will be holding some individual interviews with departments as we move forward. So we take a very diverse view of the kind of data that we collect to help get you those answers that you're looking for.
So when you determine these focus groups, do you selectively then choose from people in different areas within the village, or is it just like, taking employees 1 through 400 and randomly taking a number or something?
We work with the village to select them specifically into groups.
Okay. And then to piggyback a little bit maybe on what Trustee Baldino said, I think different people in the community are looking for different solutions or different approaches to this evaluation process. Whereas maybe the Board of Trustees and management of the village, maybe looking at it from one standpoint. Members of the community are looking at it from a different standpoint. You know, people are constantly coming into the village and saying, you know, why don't we have people of color? You know, why don't we have more of this and more of that? You know, and obviously you can't take a community that's as it is and, you know, just take your magic wand and convert it to something else, you know, overnight or even maybe, you know, for hundreds of years. So, you know, so I'm just curious as how you approach that, because I think people are going to be looking at it for different answers to what service you're providing, and I'm not sure they'll be satisfied with potentially what you're providing.
Well, you know, it really is one of the most interesting things about what we do, because we don't know the answers until we get in and talk with and learn from the people who live and work with the village of Arlington Heights. I am a huge community policing person. In fact, my preference is always to work with local governments because it's where people live their lives. And so often you find people who work, like I believe your chief of police, who has been connected to the city that he serves for his entire professional life in one way or another, who lived there, grew up there. It is you. It's part of who you are. So I don't see a big separation between the government and the community. We really are one. The government is the community and the community is the government. And it's bringing those two pieces together that is so important for me and one of my favorite parts of what I do and how we approach it. I wish I could wave a magic wand and make every community better, stronger, happier, more fulfilling, more welcoming, more diverse, all of those things that we're looking for. I can't do that, but I wake up every morning and with the clients that I work with, I try again and value the work and the perspectives of people. I know that it's important to you. And to the government and to the workforce, that we understand the perspective of community. I'm hoping our objective is to bring those two things together so that you're more connected.
So you read the tea leaves every morning and to make that determination?
I like to try.
This is Jesse. Actually,
yes, Jesse.
Yeah, I walk the community. Anywhere I go, I actually walk the community. I try to become a part of the community.
It's a long community, I can tell you.
You know what? I do a lot of walking. As a matter of fact, they told me Houston was a walkable city. I got a little tired walking around Houston. So, but I do walk, and you really get engaged, and you will find out that if you meet people where they are, you will find things, whether you're eating out at a restaurant, just meeting with individuals, just to find out, they'll share. When I do focus groups, there are a lot of times when individuals in focus groups may feel a little shy, and you give them an opportunity to pick up the phone and call you later on just to voice their opinions. Those things make a big difference because you try to give as many people a voice. They have the survey. We try to make the survey to a point where it's at a readable grade level of 7, where that anybody can pick up that. They don't have to feel like it's an academic, rigorous survey. And that's also interpreted that the average person can pick it up and read it and understand it. So everybody needs to feel a part of it. I don't want to select individuals. I want them to select me. So we might get other people to just say, you know what, why don't you go talk to this group? And we try to make ourselves as available as much as possible. The community, is very much as part of the public government itself. So it's just one. I've been in public service since I was 19. I started as a police officer. My football coaches were police officers. They were truly community policing people. They treated us like family. We were their kids. So those are the types of things that I was raised with, brought up with, and believed in. So these are the things that I look for. So we're here to serve and do whatever we need to do to reach as many people as we can so that their voices are heard.
Thank you.
Last thing I would add to it is, during the assessment process, while we're getting perspectives from people, and we're getting recommendations from people, we're also asking people, what are you willing to do? And what changes are you willing to make as well to contribute to what's trying to be created here? And so engaging people in the change process, even at that moment, starts to send a message that, oh yeah, this isn't somebody else's responsibility. This is my responsibility. And so how do we bring everybody together to be responsible to make that change? So that'll be a big part of the process as well, where we really start to engage and bring people in a way that's going to be really productive.
Okay, Trustee Tinaglia.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, Tanya and Chris and Jesse, I'm really thankful that you guys are here. I've sat here and listened intently to everything you're saying, and I've learned a couple things already. Maybe, Tanya, really quickly, I think it was you that mentioned, actually I take that back. I think it was Chris. That you expect this to be about a 2-month project. Is that what you mentioned earlier? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That is correct, yeah.
I think the one thing to know leaving here tonight is that this is a marathon. This is not a sprint race. Any good fortune we expect to find out of this, any good policy, any good public relations that we hope to achieve out of this from the inside or the outside of our little world here on this Zoom meeting, it's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of work. There might be folks listening in here tonight and tuning in again later that wish that this could happen in 2 weeks, and that certain statements and declarations could be made. But I think what I'm hearing here tonight is that this is a bit of a marathon, and there's an old phrase: the worse you want it, the worse you'll get it. Well, I want this to be great, and I want this to be really thoughtful. And just listening to you three and the name of your company, Kaleidoscope, all of this just says so much. And I hope people are listening, and I hope people are paying attention, because this will be good. This will be done right. It will be done well. And I know Randy is 100% committed to give you what you need to get this done. And all of us here together are as well. So I look forward to working with you. Very happy that you're here. Thanks for being here.
Right, we do have a staff recommendation to authorize the village manager to enter into a consulting agreement with Kaleidoscope. But I first let me go to, if we want to go ahead and take the motion, if there is a motion, and then we'll go to the audience. So Trustee Canty.
I was going to say, I would like to make the motion to authorize the village manager to enter into a consulting agreement with the Kaleidoscope Group to provide a diversity, equity, and inclusion audit and plan. And I'm excited and happy to do so.
Second.
And seconded by Trustee Baldino. And let's go to the audience then, just to see. We just have a few people who are still with us, to see if there's any questions or comments from the audience. And I do see a couple of hands. Janet Borick. And you're just reminded again of the 3-minute time limit. Is it Mr. or Mrs. Borick this time? You want to take yourself off mute?
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, we've got you now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'm with the Bridging the Black-White Divide.
Just give us your name if you would.
Yeah, John Allen Borick, B-O-R-Y-K.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm with the Bridging the Black-White Divide. And a year ago, I raised a question, as some of you may recall, for addressing this. I am so pleased with you, Mayor, and for Village Manager Rick for taking this on and doing it seriously, to take the time to get a good company. It seems like we are in a great learning opportunity, I think, in this country. And I am proud to see that this village trustees are taking this step. And this could be an example for other Northwest suburbs. So thank you very much and congratulations. And I hope it's a real success. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And next is Angie Hamada.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, so obviously there is important work to be done to make meaningful DEI change in Arlington Heights. And I think hiring Kaleidoscope is an absolutely wonderful start. I appreciate the comments by the mayor, the village manager, and even some board members at the last village board meeting, indicating that they support the creation of a DEI commission made up of community members and support the village making a DEI declaration. And as you know, a petition was signed by over 500 people also supporting those initiatives. However, in reading the village's plan, which mentions hiring more diverse employees and holding community discussions, I noticed that the plan did not specifically mention a DEI committee, nor did it mention the village making a public DEI declaration. So I'm just curious if those are items that the consulting firm will be working on with the village, and if the firm is not going to be working on those two initiatives, how do we move forward with them as a village?
Good. Good questions.
I just have one more. I'll be really quick.
Okay, go ahead.
It's regarding the community discussion part. And I think the idea of having 4 groups with 20 residents is a good way to have a really more close and intense discussion where you get a more meaningful outcome. But I do think some residents were really hoping for a larger community discussion as well, almost in more of a like a town hall format. So I'm wondering if the village is contemplating doing kind of a larger discussion like that as a whole, kind of separate and apart from what Kaleidoscope will hold. And that's it for my comments, and thank you again.
Well, let me take the first couple questions first. Yes, I do think the scope of the work of Kaleidoscope is to help us form a DEI statement, and I think that's a critical step, and we're certainly looking for their assistance and guidance through also the assistance of our community in terms of what that might entail. And so the public is a very important part of that process. Regarding a commission, that's also something that is on the table. I don't know that I would commit to a creation of something at this point until we've had the discussion with the community as a whole and with our consultant in terms of what that might be, who might be members, and first of all, whether or not it would be something that would be worthwhile to create here in the village of Arlington Heights. So that's, at least in my mind, yet to be determined, but it's certainly within the scope of what I envision Kaleidoscope to help us with. And in terms of the last question, I don't know if Randy, you want to start off with that?
I think it's important to note that, as Trustee Tinaglia said, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We are not suggesting that once the scope of work of Kaleidoscope is completed, we will have resolved and have a all-encompassing plan for resolving all of our DEI issues in perpetuity in this community. The community meetings that they are designing are focused on collecting input for this particular phase of the discussion. It doesn't mean we can't have other community discussions in different formats, over time on these issues. And I think we want to make these first steps, see what we learn from them. And then, part of the recommendations that, I'm hoping we receive from Kaleidoscope are about how do we develop an ongoing way to communicate with our community on these issues? And, what are some best practices out there in the industry for communities that continue these discussions? So I think all of those are fair questions, but I just think, we're taking these steps forward, but we don't know what all the future steps are going to be. But I think we're saying we're open-minded to different ideas.
Right. Did anybody from Kaleidoscope have anything to add on those questions? Seeing none, thank you.
I do not.
And so we have one other hand, and that's Zoom account, and I assume that's Keith Moons.
You assume right tonight, President Hayes. I do have one question for Kaleidoscope. In your closely do you look at like some for the existence of some exclusionary zoning ordinances that might exist in town that sort of exempt, you know, say some affordable housing to be built or something like that that may be on the books yet, to make recommendations how to make those to counter those exclusionary, say, housing ordinances and or zoning, like more into the zoning, and how closely do you look into that for ways that we could open up to be more inclusionary in town? Thank you.
Any response to that from members of the firm?
This is Chris. I'll go first. As part of the community focus groups that we'll be conducting, we'll be asking for that kind of input, you know, to the village around different areas that they should be considering to go forward as part of the recommendations. So anything and everything will be important to include as part of that as part of that process. Nothing is off the table. Now, our ability to determine from a zoning perspective what's possible or not possible, that goes beyond our expertise. But what we're really here to do is to bring back the voice of you and share that in a way that the village can really, you know, be able to understand where the community's at, what the community's looking for, and then from there decide, as I think Randy had indicated earlier, what recommendations and the prioritization of recommendations to go forward and how it will, you know, kind of progress onward in the communication back. So absolutely, we want to hear those recommendations. And then obviously the village will have some decisions to make.
Okay, thanks, Chris. All right, we have one other hand then, and that's Dr. George Motto. George?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I did lower my hand, but I guess I will say something. I want to compliment the board on the decision to hire Kaleidoscope. But again, I just want to support the marathon concept here. I think that we don't want to, by any means, and Randy to explain this, stop with their recommendations. And I was really looking forward to, and I'm still looking forward to, some community-wide task force to look at the problem of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that would, of course, would look at housing, transportation, zoning, and all that, which is really part of our age-friendly community initiative. So yes, again, congratulate you on this, and I just hope that this is the first major step, and maybe get the race metaphor, and we will hand the baton out then to I guess that's a relay race, not a marathon, to the next group of people to handle some of these other very, very important questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Motto. I see no other hands from the audience, and so I'll go back to the board. Any further discussion before we take a roll call on the motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mayor, there was one other message received via email on this topic. Would you like for me to read it at this time?
Yes, please. Sorry about that.
Okay. This comes from Brian Larson. He writes, I thank you for your support of diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts to improve our community and make it more inclusive of the variety of residents who call it home. I ask you to give this effort the utmost attention and funding. We can be a more inclusive community and owe it to future generations to undertake the difficult work to change the status quo. Please authorize the consulting agreement with Kaleidoscope and do not shelve its recommendations, but implement them in a rapid order once the conclusions are presented to the village. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, now would you like me to take the roll call?
Yes, please.
Okay. Trustee Canty.
Yes.
Trustee Baldino.
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz.
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta.
I believe Trustee Scaletta had to step out.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. President Hayes.
Yes. Well, again, thank you, Chris and Tanya and Jesse, for your work to this point, your presence here this evening, your very valuable contributions to our discussion tonight. But I know, thank you in advance for all the great work that you're going to do on behalf of the residents of this community. And I'm very much, as I said before, looking forward to working with all of you for this very essential effort. So again, congratulations. We look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
Jesse.
Thank you.
All right, we have no other items on the agenda. Anything further from the village manager?
Nothing further this evening.
All right. And just under petitions and communications, again, it is, there's at least a couple hours left in the day for Trustee Schwingbeck to enjoy his birthday. And so congratulations, Tom, and happy birthday. Hope you had a good day.
Oh, it was fantastic.
And again, enjoy the rest of your birthday.
Thank you.
And so we wish you many, many more years of happiness.
Happy birthday, Tom.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
All right. Any other petitions and communications from the board? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By
Second.
Trustee LaBedz, seconded by Trustee Tinaglia. Roll call.
Trustee LaBedz.
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Yes.
Trustee Canty.
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta.
Yes.
Trustee Baldino.
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Again, thank you all for joining us tonight. Have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.